Yesterday, I ran the Boulder Field 50K. So today, we're going to talk about how it went, what I learned, bears, yes, bears, and how are my legs feeling today.
Hi.
Coming up. What is up, everybody? My name is Jeremy, and yes, I ran the Boulder Field 50K yesterday. It is the furthest distance I've ever ran by a long shot. So I want to take a moment to reflect on that, just to go over how it went, what I learned, and we'll get to the bears in a little bit. But before we get there, let's check out some of the swag they gave out. Let's start out with this pretty awesome running quarter zip up, I guess you call it. And pretty cool, pretty good material. Looking forward to wearing it. It's still maybe a little too warm for this outside, maybe first thing in the morning, but pretty chill. Also, they gave out pretty awesome running hat, which is cool because I can't get enough hats. If you know anything about me, I love my hats, even though I'm not wearing one right now. The only bad thing about this is it's white. And there's already a stain on it, but I am grateful. Super awesome. Now with this, check this out. This is pretty awesome. So instead of giving out medals, finishers medals, they give out this pretty cool little finishers decoration, I guess you're gonna call it. I could have sworn they were handing out finishers medals, because getting this means that my medal count is still big old goose egg. Now, part of me says good. I don't like participation medals anyway. They're junk. I think they're toxic for the world. But then the other half is still jealous that pretty much everybody else on YouTube has a nice wall of shiny medals or belt buckles. I don't have that. But I do have a third place trophy for cross country mountain biking. It sits up in my room, but like a medal. Come on. I want a medal for doing nothing but showing up. Is that so wrong? Yeah, yes, it is really wrong. But super cool. Thank you, Boulder Field 50K. I can't pronounce the name of the company who runs it. I'll put that down here. But this is pretty cool. I just don't know what I'm gonna do with it. Before we get too far into this, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. It helps me out a whole lot with my ego and channel growth. I do sincerely appreciate it. And also give the video a like if you haven't already. Same thing. I just really appreciate it. And if you haven't seen my last two videos about the Boulder Field 50K, I will link them down in the description. Just to go in chronological order, let's talk about the night beforehand. And this gets into the bears. On my way back to the truck to get my last few things, I was on the phone with a lady when there were some Boy Scouts, and it sounded like they were scaring away a bear. On the way back, commotion continued. Come morning time, it was time to go to my truck to go over to the start to pick up my number, and there was a lot of people just depressed and looks of disbelief on their face because this particular Boy Scout group seemed to have lost the majority of their food and all the trash they left out. I find that a little surprising, given that they're Boy Scouts. I thought they would teach bear safety, or just safety in general, but I guess they didn't get that badge yet. Everyone was okay. It was just personal gear and food. But I find it a little hilarious that these older people, the scout leaders, were huddled around a truck and just all in disbelief that the bear would go in the bed of the truck to steal all their food. It's a bear. Everyone's okay, but bears won, Boy Scout zip. So let's talk about nutrition. That was my big concern going into this race. I wasn't sure if the aid stations, given that I'm a little on the slower side, would still be stocked by the time I got there, or just be adequately stocked in general. I'd like to report that the aid stations were just fine. So all the gear, or most of the stuff I brought with me in my pack, went untouched, with the exception of my salted pretzels. We'll get to that in a little bit. Hydration, also wasn't an issue. I did decide to forego my bladder in the pack. Aid stations were about 4 to 5 miles apart. So with my 2 bladders, I usually just drank one and had it refilled at the aid station. I didn't drink both of them until after the last aid station. Knowing how far I had to go to the finish, there was no real reason to conserve. I went for it and I finished strong. Well, sort of strong. We'll talk about that. As for the race itself, it was gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous scenery. I absolutely loved it. Even if I had to walk the whole way, I knew I had a good time because the sights were just that spectacular. I also met a lot of nice people on the run. I ended up starting and finishing the race, sort of finishing the race with a guy named Mark. Super cool guy. And then in the middle of the race, I ended up running with a guy, Brian and Sean. The camaraderie was second to none. No matter who you met, everyone was super friendly, and I really enjoyed that aspect of the race. Now, how the race went for me physically. This was something I was a little worried about, but the reason why I chose the Boulderfield 50K is they advertised it as hiker friendly. So there was a 14-hour cutoff. So as long as you were back by 9 p.m., you were going to finish. So I went into this figuring that if I would hurt myself or just bonk or burn out, I could just walk in and still finish. Thankfully, that wasn't the case entirely, but how it went, so I felt super strong up until mile marker 7. At that mile marker, I started to notice a feeling in my right knee. Nothing crazy, but given that I've had issues with that knee in the past, it was something I definitely paid attention to. Thankfully, it went away for the most part, and I carried on strong, and it wasn't really an issue until later. It was around mile marker 22 where I started to cramp up. And that is when I got my salted pretzels out and started eating those and drinking. And that was also the time I said goodbye to Brian and Sean, and they continued and finished a lot further ahead of me. That's the way it goes, I guess. But right after my cramping started is when my right knee decided to flare back up. And the depressing part of it all is this was a point where we just got through a lot of rocky single track where you really couldn't run because how small and narrow the trails were, and they were really, I'm talking, man, just past the size of my head where you were rubbing those rhododendron bushes. It was right on the descent, and I just could not run for the life of me. Not the cramping. I can push through muscle cramping, but what I can't push through, at least mentally, is knee or joint pain. It's just not worth it. I didn't want to go through and hurt myself. I wasn't winning anyway. So self-preservation was the big thing. And so I ended up walking the majority of the last, I could say 3 or 4 miles. You know, I was able to push through a little bit. The pain went away, but then it came back in a big way. And it stunk. It really did. I ended up getting passed a lot, and I hate being passed. I really do. Especially getting passed by people that I feel aren't as physically fit as me. Obviously, they were more physically fit than I was, given that I was hurting and they were not. Oh man, but getting passed, not my thing. I don't like it. But I pushed through and I made it to mile marker 26.2. Got my first non-official marathon miles. That felt good. Coming to the finish line, and I could barely get myself to trot. I did work up the courage though to run in the last, I guess, like quarter of a mile, because I knew not only were there people watching at the finish line, and there were plenty of people, but there were also my kids, my family, that would cheer me on, and there was a 0% chance of me walking in. I really want to show my kids that you have to finish strong, so I didn't let anyone know visually that I was dying inside. Because I was dying inside. But how am I feeling today? The day after running a 50K. Oh man, I'm crippled. I'm crippled. Really, the soreness isn't too bad. It's the knee, really. Well, I guess it's everything. It's my, like, the upper parts of my quads. I can barely pick my legs up at all. I need to actually grab my legs and like assist them to get places, like on top of the bed, up a stair. The knee, thankfully, I have the knee brace, so that's making things feel so much better. But would I ever do it again? Was it worth it? Absolutely. Absolutely worth it. I'm in love. It was amazing. I want to do 100K. I would love to do Eastern States eventually because that's also what's local, number one, and it's also a qualifier for Leadville. But again, that's like ambitious. That's years away. We'll see how things go. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the training. Now that this is over, I have big plans for the winter. I'm gonna start that training really soon, but that's a video coming out pretty soon. So that's it. That is my recap, my adventure of the Boulder Field 50K. I hope you enjoyed the previous videos. Again, if you haven't seen it, look for the links down in the description or just check out my channel. The links aren't there. I hope you found that somewhat entertaining, and I hope you subscribe and follow me along on my adventure to get a little better every day. And heck, maybe in like a year or two, you'll see me at Leadville. Not ruling it out. Not ruling it out. If you haven't already, give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all on all the future videos, and never quit. Never.